Lots of activists in here, let's introduce some balance to the debate, shall we? I think only a small number of people deny climate change, and the vast majority of people that have issues with those on the far left are not climate deniers, but rather climate pragmatists instead. I'll say the same of the far left too, of course. I don't think the vast majority of people on AOC's side of the aisle are saying completely crazy things either. Bulldoze all the airports. Treat butchers like drug dealers. Forcibly release all the chickens so the roosters can't rape them. So the real crux of this issue seems to be not what should we do about climate change, but what can we do about climate change without denying the developing world the same opportunities that we had, and not ruining our own quality of life? If you are a lazy bastard and don't like reading, you can watch this video I made after I had a lengthy argument with two dirty hippies. Otherwise, feel free to read on. The short version of my ire with climate activists is simply this. While debating the issue of Greta Thunberg with some foul-smelling activists, I happened to stumble across some data. Having children is bad for the environment, say researchers. I'll try and keep it succinct, but basically, researchers from Lund used very easy-to-measure metrics to conclude just how much carbon the average person produces in a year. Here's the key data. One fewer child per family can save average of 58.6 tons of CO2 equivalent emissions per year. And by contrast, living car-free saves about 2.4 tons of CO2 equivalent per year. Eating a plant-based diet saves 0.8 tons of CO2 equivalent a year. Researchers found that avoiding one transatlantic flight per year can save between 0.7 and 2.8 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, depending on the distance traveled, amount of luggage on board and how many passengers on the flight. I also found this grimly amusing, considering how much people go on about bloody recycling. Recycling will typically only save 0.21 tons of CO2 equivalent per year, so let's digest all of that and sum it all up with 3 simple sentences. If you are childless and never recycle, fly 6 times a year, drive a Humvee, and live off barbecue and whiskey, you have a smaller carbon footprint than a vegan hippie who never takes a flight, never drives, and consumes nothing but rainwater, carrots, and misery, but has 1 child. Even if everyone in the United States, Europe copies the hippie woman, starts living in a yurt, and recycles to their optimum, we will still be fucked when the population hits 20 billion. Recycling does next to fuck all. I can add loads more arguments too. Apparently, when you let people from the third world into the first world, their carbon footprint triples in size. So how do those of the far left square that circle? We have to lower climate change, but we also have to let lots of people move to the first world, and overnight, have a climate footprint 3 times larger? Leonardo DiCaprio only has a climate Yeti print 400 times larger than yours, you working class scum. How dare you eat a chicken nugget? And how can we deny those in poorer countries the same rights and privileges that we had to make our economies strong? Is it moral for wealthy people in Denmark and Germany to deny basic freedoms to those living in much worse conditions? Sorry Indian villagers and Chinese peasants, we used fossil fuel for years, but you're going to have to get used to living in shit, you selfish bastards. It seems a tad unfair to me. Anyway, I could go on all day. The arrogance and ignorance of so many of those on the far left is easily the equal of those on the right that deny the existence of a problem, and the surety of both sides galls me. I don't deny the problem, not for a moment. But I definitely deny the solution.